and welcome to the Momversation Club, the podcast born out of the idea that every mum needs a tribe. I'm Claire Strong.
And I'm Christina Struckmeyer. We're two moms just like you, navigating the chaotic, challenging, and often isolating world of motherhood.
Now, it's said that it takes a village to raise a child, but we want to know, where the F is that village?
It's a question that resonates with so many of us who find ourselves raising children, managing careers, and trying to maintain our own identities, often with a sense of isolation.
But we're here to remind you that you're not alone. The Momversation Club is your village, a place where you feel appreciated, valued, and understood.
We believe that by sharing our own experiences, successes, and struggles, that we can create a virtual village for all you amazing mamas out there.
So join us every week for an honest, raw, and relatable discussion about all aspects of being a mom, including the stuff you just can't talk about with anyone else.
So if you've ever asked yourself where the F is the village, well, you found your tribe. So let's get into it.
Hi, Christina.
Hey, Claire. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing? I love your... What was that you're wearing a dress?
Oh, yes. I'm wearing my dress. I'm trying to wear clothes.
Well, as opposed to not wearing clothes?
Yes, as opposed to being a nudist. No, I'm trying to wear the clothes that are in my closet. I don't know about you, but some days I'm like, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So like, I don't want to wear anything that like is a going somewhere outfit.
Yeah.
But then my non-going somewhere outfits, I have like 5 and I just rotate them. And then I always run into people when, or like they come to my house or something happens where I'm on camera or like I'm on the FaceTime. So I've decided to just wear clothes that I intend to go out in, even if I'm indoors.
I love it. I love that because you're right. I think sometimes my girls must think I only own one outfit because that's generally the outfit I wear like every day. It tends to be if I'm not having to be, well, it depends on what I'm doing. If I have a meeting or I'm interviewing someone or I need to be physically, in the office for whatever reason, then obviously I'm going to dress professionally. But on the days where I'm working from home, where I don't need to be on camera, I'm quite often just in my Pilates stuff. So it isn't the most glamorous of looks.
And I'm seeing like there's a middle ground because I'm going to like story times and play times and things like that. And there's a lot of moms who find this balance of like comfy and also cute.
Yeah.
And I'm working on it because I have 2 looks. I have like looking like I'm leaving the home to maybe go shopping and be at a cute boutique, and then like bridge troll. And that's it.
Bridge troll.
Bridge troll. You know what I'm talking about, where like your hair looks crazy and you're wearing like maybe pajama pants with a rip in them. And
oh my God. I want you to do a reel about that. You need to do a reel on that.
Okay, we'll work on it.
So
I'll have plenty of content.
Yeah, and then I guess you're not quite as disheveled, look, is what you're saying. You need to do a reel on that. I can't wait to see
I will. But it leads to today's topic because I often feel guilty about like not presenting myself in a way that's attractive, because I'm sure my husband feels bamboozled because when he met me and fell in love with me, I was this like put together, shiny little bubbly person. And now, I look crazy. He wakes up and he's like, I'm sure I'll stick by her. I love her. I feel guilty for not like dressing up for him.
You don't look crazy. I think you've got really nice style, actually. I do.
I appreciate you. But today's topic is all about guilt, and specifically a type of guilt that we moms have, which is mom guilt.
Yeah. Oh, it's a thing. It really is a thing. And, it spans so many topics too. I mean, one of the most obvious ones that I think, I'd like to start with is the stay-at-home versus working mum situation that, I really struggle to navigate because, I do want a career. I've been a journalist for 20 years. I do have a career, and I have had what most people would say a successful career. I worked for the BBC. I was an anchor and reporter there. I have this, master's degree and all of that. But then when I was in that space full time, I'm feeling guilty that I'm missing out on my kids' stuff. I can't make the school play that night. I can't pick them up from school. I can't take them to dancing class. And so I used to have those pangs of guilt constantly. And I'm sure many women who are working mums have that type of mum guilt. But
Yeah.
then the flip side to that is, if I'm at home and I'm not earning money, then I feel guilty because I can't provide for my girls financially in a way that I could if I was working. So, they might want this or they might want to go there. And it's like, well, I don't have, so and so's parents must have more money than me. I can't afford that. And so I feel guilty all the time, every day, particularly when it comes to that specific subject about, not feeling like I earn enough to give them the life that I feel that they deserve and that their friends may be living. So that's how guilt shows itself to me quite often.
Yeah, I mean, what you're describing is kind of, mom guilt
Yeah,
happens when you're forced to prioritize one part of either your motherhood or your identity or yourself over another, and it can be triggered by a number of things. I mean, definitely the work situation is a huge trigger for most people.
yeah,
Going back to work after maternity leave or juggling household tasks or responsibilities like you mentioned, like whether you're present enough or and that can go on the flip side too, because then as a mom you're having mom guilt about not being present, but then as a employee or someone who's an entrepreneur you're having guilt about not being present there too, so you just
yeah,
can't
totally.
win.
Yeah,
um, I read a quote the other day from an article that I was reading from vogue.com, and
yeah.
it was about mom guilt. And it was something I want to talk about it because I think that it
Okay.
was so poignant. I'm just going to read it. So
Yeah, sure, go
we'll just
ahead.
strap in. So it
Okay,
says, this is to American moms.
okay.
American mothers live in a country that offers virtually no support and a society that upholds incredibly unrealistic standards for them. There's the structural stuff, the lack of national paid parental leave, the inaccessibility of childcare, the sad state of postpartum care, and then there's the cultural stuff, the idea that mom should have it all and act accordingly. The mental load, the double standards, unrealistic media representations of parenthood, the glorification of mommy martyr, being a martyr for your children, online mom shaming. In light of all of that, mothers feel as though they can't measure up and it's inevitable. And so thinking about that quote, there's so much stuff when it comes to mom guilt. And I feel like, is there anyone who doesn't struggle with this? Because we're kind of set up in this space of we're so overwhelmed. We have so many resources and information coming at us. We're expected to do the job. It's like when people lay off someone and decide not to hire another person for that position. They're like,
Yeah.
surely Debbie can take over marketing and the accounting and all this stuff. That's our lives day to day as moms. We're expected to juggle all of the stuff. And then if you do happen to do that all, like and you're a magic unicorn, something has to kind of go downward because you're not a clone of yourself. You don't have five of you. So,
Mhm.
like, if you're a really good mom one day, did you do well at your job?
Yeah.
If you were a really good employee one day, were you there for your husband and were you a sexy person for them and providing enough intimacy? Like, there's always something left on the table in order to prioritize something else.
Really, when you think about it, society sets us up to fail because it's not possible to do all of those things well. It isn't. You cannot be 10 out of 10 as a business person, 10 out of 10 as a mum, 10 out of 10 as a wife, because all of those things in themselves require 100% dedication and effort if you're going to do it to the best of your ability. And so I do think that it's incredibly hard for women to be super successful, however that looks, because unlike men, we do have so much more on our plate. I know that, my husband works really, really hard and he, he's a lawyer, he earns excellent money, but that's because he works hard and he has a very responsible job. But he is allowed to focus on his job for 10 hours a day. He doesn't need to think at any point in his day, what are the kids doing? Do I need to pick one of them up? Oh, I've got a call coming in from one of the girls. What's going on? Okay, you need me to get you. All right, well, it's like 11:20 in the middle of my day. I'm going to have to drop what I'm doing and do because you obviously need to come home. You're ill. He doesn't deal with any of that. He doesn't have to think about what people are eating, whether we've run out of anything. He just gets up, goes to work, probably calls off at the gym on his way back and comes home. And so, therefore he has the ability to be a crazy successful business person because he can pretty much focus on that, certainly during the week. Whereas for me, and it's not that I'm moaning and playing the victim and I don't want it to come across as that, but it's just life. For me,
Yeah.
I'm also expected to, he expects a lot from me. He wants me to be his equal career wise, and actually so do I. I would love nothing more than to out earn my husband. Not that it's a competition, but
Yeah.
however, that's great, and I do strive for those things. I am ambitious from a career perspective, but let's not be silly and naive. The running of the house and the family falls at my feet from a practical point of view, even though I know that he contributes massively financially, and I appreciate that. The actual practical day to day running of everyone is absolutely my responsibility. So it frustrates me that we are expected by many people to be really successful career people, but then also you need to be a great mom. But then the flip side of that, Christina, I was at a barbecue the other week at some dear friend's house, and they're lovely. They're an older couple, but the guy said to me, he was asking me about my work, and he was concerned about the amount of time that I was working, which I thought was interesting. He said, oh well, you need to be careful because you're a mum too, and you've got to be looking after the girls. And interestingly enough, my eldest daughter overheard that, and she actually like butted in and said, "Oh, but Mum, we're fine. Eva and I are fine. We're old enough to look after ourselves. You need to go and do what makes you happy, and go and do your career." And I just thought it was very interesting. So again, I chose not to feel guilty in that moment, but the guy inadvertently was trying to make me feel that way because he was like, "Well, it's all very well you having this career, but what about your kids?" I was like, "Wow, we can't win. We just can't
Yeah,
win."
it still exists. It still
Yeah.
exists. It's that same thing of like, where are your children? Like if I happen to take some mom time, right? Like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm gonna get my nails done, or I'm gonna go get my hair done, or something. I don't know. Go shopping for a new bra. Ooh,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, like if I'm gonna prioritize myself for 2 seconds and I actually get the time, like I set it all up to make sure I have that time, it never fails that someone somewhere says, "Oh, where are your kids?" As if
Unbelievable.
like they
Yeah.
have a father, like they easily can do that. So I think that there's the mom guilt that we have because of all the ways that we're set up to have it, but then we also get guilted for feeling guilty too. Like I feel like there's a lot of people, either they'll go that route where it's like, where are your children, like where are your children at 7 o'clock at night, um where are your children, or they'll go like, you should feel free, mama, like get your self-preservation and make sure you take care of yourself, and blah 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 blah. I'm making you feel guilty for feeling guilty. And so that's another piece of like that I feel, at least, of like I have two
Yes.
types of people in my life: the full like supporters of me, where they're like, get your stuff, like work hard, you can do this,
Yeah.
you shouldn't feel guilty for feeling guilty, you should don't
Yeah.
feel guilty, stop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other side of like, where are your kids, you should, like, you're the guy at the barbecue where it's
Yeah.
like, you should
Totally.
be prioritizing your motherhood over everything, you shouldn't exist outside of that, like that kind of situation. Do you encounter that too? Do you count the other like positive, like massively like ongoing, like, hey, give yourself grace, mama?
Yeah, and most of the time I choose to see that as motivation, and I try to see that as encouraging of me. But it's hard because then what if you aren't able to do that? Then you feel like you're a failure because
Yeah.
oh, look at these women on TikTok, or look at this, lawyer that my husband's having lunch with or whatever. She's a mum, she has 3 kids. And it's like, yeah, but okay, good for her. That's absolutely great. I'm sure she also has a lot of support because she earns a load of money. That's not my situation. I'm doing all the work and I'm doing all the support. So
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is we all have very unique situations. And the woman on TikTok who is making 20K a month from doing whatever she's doing and she's living the life. That's fantastic. But she's not telling us all of what's going on in her life. We're just seeing the best bits. And then
Yeah.
for us, then to feel like I'm not doing as good as her. She's got, what together. She's a great mom and she earns all this money. Like, what am I doing wrong? So yeah, I see what you
It's
mean.
comparison. I feel like mom
Even,
guilt and comparison go
yes,
hand in hand. They're
definitely,
sisters.
definitely.
Um, and you're to your point, like we compare ourselves to this snippet of someone that
Yes,
isn't the full picture. And everybody has a good presentation for something on some
sure.
day. Like
Yes.
nobody's zero. And so, I've been guilty of this. Like people
Mm,
have seen me do like incredible things for my daughter in advocacy, but
yeah.
like what they're not seeing is I also like there's dishes all in my sink and
Yes.
my laundry's piled up with like
Yes.
somebody pooped their pants earlier and there's like a laundry situation.
So
Like
I
I haven't
feel
showered in 2 days. Like there's like other things there's the sacrifice because if one thing's going up, there's like five things going down in order
Well,
to
for
make that one thing
example,
go.
if I'm having a productive day at work, and by work I generally mean right now that I'm working from home, so I'm writing stories, I'm working on the podcast, so if I've had a productive day in that regard, or I'm meeting a deadline, for example, I have not done the housework. The dishwasher has not been unloaded. It hasn't been unloaded. But then if my husband comes back at like 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, and the house is as he left it with an unmade bed, the dishwasher's not been unloaded, I know that he wouldn't be okay with that. I know he wouldn't. So I put it on myself. So again, I'm probably compounding guilt on guilt, but I put that guilt on top of myself. So I make sure that um I'm quite sneaky actually. I'll talk to him. I'll say, "Oh, are you on your way back?" Or he'll call me when he's on his way back. And I'll say,
Oh, the speed clean.
"Okay, yeah,
Totally. I think that's
yeah."
universal. Like we
And I'll
all
say,
do that. Like, when are you
"Oh,
gonna be home?
listen, I'll speak to you when you get home." And then I'm like, "Oh my god, like dishwasher quick!" And then he walks in. I'll light a candle quick. So he walks in. There's a candle going, and the dishes are bit. Oh my god! Little does he know that I've
So
crammed all of that
serene.
into the last
Oh my
15
God.
minutes. So
But the
that
difference between men and women is that, that like, oh, the running background of all the things we should be doing that
yeah,
we didn't do because we prioritize this other thing, but we have to at least try to keep up appearances
yes,
to make those
that's what
other
it is.
things look decent.
Yeah,
Whereas men don't do that. Like I have had a couple nights where I, went out recently with a friend for her birthday and I didn't come home till after the kids were in bed. And I come into the house and there's dishes in the sink and there's things on the floor and there's toys everywhere and my house looks like a tornado went through it. And my husband's not an asshole, but there's no like sense of, oh my God, how embarrassing. Oh my gosh, please don't look. I tried really hard to get everything clean before you got home. There's no apologizing.
no,
He's just
it's
like,
just
the kids are alive and fed.
yeah.
Like,
What
we'll
more do you
tackle this whenevs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely with my ex-husband, that's what I used to find. If ever he was to have the kids on his own, I would come back to a like disaster zone, and then he would be ready to be literally handing them off to me and getting the hell out because he'd done his part. And it's like, wow, okay, so but I blame society. I know it's quite a sweeping statement, but I do because society has also conditioned men to think the way they do as well, because that's why they have the expectations they do of us, because that's just what society has taught them over decades, over hundreds of years, that the woman, that the mother is the child raiser, the homekeeper. And okay, oh, it's great that women can vote now. Oh, it's great that women are allowed to work, but they need to do all of that alongside the other stuff that they were put on this earth to do. And so, it hasn't much evolved when you actually look at what the duties of a mum are compared to the duties of a dad. Very often, it's still very heavily skewed in the mum's favor with regards to how much she has to do on a day-to-day
Oh,
basis
yeah.
compared to the guy that maybe just needs to go out and work and earn money, which I'm not diminishing as a small thing, but again, it's not really an even
There's
playing
not the
field.
other jobs that they come home to
No,
after, like the second
definitely,
shift.
definitely not.
Um, but back to that point of like my husband's thinking, it's not
Yeah.
that he actually like the kids were in bed
Mhm.
Everything was quiet. I'm not saying that he just hands them off to me, but
Yeah.
what's missing is the apologetic nature of how he is when I walk in, right?
Yeah.
Because when he walks in, if I've put the kids down and I haven't tackled the kitchen and I haven't cleaned up the toys, I am, even if I don't say it out loud, feeling
Yeah.
apologetic,
Yes,
feeling
I
as if
do.
I should have done those things. And if he has to watch me do them, feeling apologetic that I'm taking up our time
Isn't it
doing those
funny?
things,
Yeah.
he's not making me feel that. I'm doing that. And it's a
Yeah.
society driven thing that I feel. And he doesn't feel that. Like, he doesn't
Yeah.
have that button in his brain of like, oh no, my wife's come home. And even though I've had an hour since the kids have been down, I haven't yet done all these tasks. I should feel bad for this. He's like, oh, you're here. Like, we can clean the kitchen together. Like, we can do, like, he's not feeling that
That
same level
pressure.
of pressure.
Yes.
It's just wild to me. I'm like, we're just like, sometimes I look at us and I'm like, we are two very different types of workups. Like,
Yeah.
our
I
buttons do
think that
not
a lot.
match.
I think that a lot. And my husband, he's got lots of great points. He does, but I do think that sometimes like wow, and I wonder if it's just a male and female thing, but it's like you really are from another planet. You
Yeah.
didn't even
Yeah.
think of that. Those thoughts have not even gone into your head, and I just it's like you say, it's wild, really,
Well, and
to
it's
think
like
about.
they try to help, but they literally don't have the same programming. So, like, for instance, say the kids need to go swimming.
Yeah,
Okay. He's getting them in their suits. Okay.
yeah,
He's making sure that he has the sunscreen. But what
uh-huh,
he's not doing is like, huh, do they have towels there?
yeah,
Do they have their goggles that they like? Do they
yeah,
have their swim shoes? Does the one have her toys that she likes to play with? What about the life vest? Like, there's all these other thoughts that I would initially go pair it with.
yeah,
But that's just like what I do. It's part of my workup
yeah,
of like, if you ask me for this, it's like if you give a mouse a cookie, like if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk, like that book.
yeah,
That's how mom brains work. It's like if you have this one thing that you have to do, you're thinking about three or four other things that relate to that one thing.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. There's definitely a big difference between how mums and dads' brains work,
yeah.
in my experience anyway, for sure. Do you feel what about other situations where you felt mum guilt?
All the time. You know what's interesting is this topic came up because I was at a party, like a birthday party recently, and I was explaining what I do for like, work and stuff. And I talked about the podcast, and she's like, have you ever covered mom guilt? And I'm like, inadvertently, like we've talked about mom guilt here and there because it comes up with different topics. But then I thought to myself and I was like, well, I don't really feel guilt. Like I felt myself putting on a front to her of like,
Oh,
I don't really feel guilty. Like I'm at this party and
interesting.
I don't feel guilty for not being at, my house right now with my kids. But then I sat with myself and I'm like, I do have spaces of mom guilt. They just don't
Mm,
appear like they would for the average person, I think. Um, for me, I get a lot of decision fatigue. And then
mm,
I feel guilty about all of the decisions I haven't considered that are part of decisions I should be considering. And so, what I mean by that is like, I'll hear something like the best way to manage speech in your toddler is XYZ. And then I'll see another resource that's like, it's actually this and it's actually that. And then they're all competing. And then I get so overwhelmed by how much information's coming at me that
mm.
I shut down and don't do anything. And then I feel
Right.
guilty for not doing it.
Yes. Well, I can
That
relate
happens a
to
lot
that. Not necessarily with the speech thing because my kids are at different stages,
with everything.
but yes, there's maybe a sport that they're wanting to try, or even there's because my girls dance, there might be another class that they want to take, but I I I just don't know where to start sometimes with things, and it's like okay, so they can't do it all because it costs too much and there's only so much time, and so then I don't do anything. Do you know what I mean? I'm almost like
Yeah.
paralyzed, and then I feel guilty that I
Yeah.
haven't done anything. But then I'd feel guilty that I can only do that one thing and not both of the things.
Totally. Or you'll take a decision, you'll go, this seems right. Like I'm going to do this, but I'm not doing it as good as so and so over there. Or
Yeah.
like maybe I could be doing it better. Like I just feel like there's a lot of that pressure I put on myself of even if I do make a decision, am I making the right decision? Am I going to fuck everyone up? Like, I
Yeah.
just feel like that happens all the time. And it's like
Actually,
stuff like that with speech, but also little stuff like, am I using the right kind of sunscreen? Is this sunscreen going to cause cancer? Should I be researching all the sunscreens? Am I, it's every decision I make as a mother. Is it the right one? And is it as good as so and so's decision?
so I've just been thinking while we've been chatting, I actually think a lot of this mum guilt is also because we compare ourselves to other mums. It's that it goes back to that comparison. It's yes, I think society has a major impact on this subject, but who are we actually comparing ourselves to? It is other mothers. We're not comparing ourselves to another dad. We're comparing ourselves to so and so who, oh God, I know has this really high flying job and earns like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and her kids are doing all these activities, and I can't do that. Or it's the mum that just seems to have motherhood down, and they're always doing stuff with their kids, and they know how to react to situations. And so, whichever way I look at it, actually, I'm comparing myself to other mums.
That's so true. And I'll add to that I often feel like I'm comparing myself to my what do I want to say? Like the potential of what I could do.
Okay.
Like I'm comparing myself to like the potential of what could be. I
Mm,
feel guilty that I'm in a situation much like you where I'm at home most of the time.
mm.
So technically I should have time to do all the things. I should have the capacity to do more stuff, but I feel guilty that I can't. That somehow that's out of reach still, even though I
Yeah.
have the kind of time that most women would really love. I have the kind of life that most women would be like, wow, if only I had that, I could do this with that time. So then I feel guilty I'm not using it well. Like I'm not prioritizing the right stuff, or
Oh,
maybe I'm not doing enough with the time that I'm have, and I'm wasting this gift of like the opportunity that's here. So it's partly comparing it to other people, but more so like, what could I be doing if I really like stopped dicking around? But then I think, what am I? Am I dicking around, or am I resting? Am I just being a human?
yes. And that's the other thing. It's, sometimes you may not feel like you've been very productive, but then when you look back at your day, and I'm talking particularly as a stay at home mum, actually, you've got everyone where they needed to be. You've picked everyone up. You've done the dishes. You've fed everyone. It's not like you've been sat watching TV all day. That's not generally. I mean, that's never my day, and I would
No.
guess that that's not most other mums' days either. Um, and so yeah, all I can conclude is that motherhood is really really hard, and I always feel that I'm failing in one area or another, and it's unfortunate because then you just live your life with this constant feeling of failure, and it's negative. It's not good, and I need to shake it off. It's not nice to feel that way.
You know what you just said earlier about all the things that we've done in the day that maybe
Mhm.
we overlook. I wonder if we were to like as an exercise, like sit down and write that out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like write out all the things that we had done that day, if that would make us feel a little bit better. Because I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of the work we do, especially as women who work from home, um, and especially with flexible jobs like we have,
Yes.
some of that stuff is unseen. Like we've talked about unseen labor. Like I may have cleaned the table 3 or 4 times, but you would never know that because it was clean this morning and it's clean this evening. Like if you were to leave during the entire chunk of the day, nothing really looks that different in my house. But like that is work actually to keep
Yeah,
everything
it
just
is.
so when you have 2 children at home that are relatively young, and for you to have 2 teens and they've got to go XYZ and here and there, and like they have
Yeah.
advice that they need from you, and you're doing all of this mental work for them. And if you were to write that down, like what would that feel like, going to bed having done all that work? I mean, just an idea. Like as you were talking about that, I thought, wouldn't
I
that be
think that's
nice
a
to kind of
great
sit down?
idea because, quite often I will be in a flow state with my work, and then one of my girls needs something from me. They need some advice. They've got, this issue going on, and I feel that it's my duty to stop what I'm doing and listen to them. But then that
Yeah.
totally takes you off track, and then you've got to, give them advice and all of that. And then all of a sudden, in a split second, you need to turn your brain back to what you were doing before you were interrupted, which has nothing to do with that. It's work based, and so it's just, yeah, it's a lot. And I just feel that we need to be kinder to ourselves, and we need to be more appreciative of ourselves, because honestly, there's probably not going to be anyone else in your life that is going to be those things to you. Because even if, your husband or your partner or your kids, even if they do appreciate you, in my experience, it's not normal, unfortunately, for them to be voicing that every single day. Like, oh, wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, you took care of everything today. It's almost like it's expected. So because of that, I think we need to be our own cheerleaders.
I I feel yes, we definitely do. And maybe even like a good job, Claire. Like at the end of the day, like
Yeah,
we did it. We got through
yeah,
it.
yeah.
My husband and I have a saying. We sing this little song to us ourselves, like, bitch, you're doing a good job.
Ah,
I'll sing it to him if he had a good day, or he'll sing it to me
yeah,
if I've had a good day. But
yeah.
I think as we're chatting, I think about the comparison game and how did we get here? Like how did we get
Mm,
here where even if all of our kids are taken care of, they're happy, they're healthy, they're well fed, everybody's happy, how do we still have this guilt? And I think it's because when our parents were growing up, they were comparing themselves to other moms who they saw like physically doing mom things. And when they
yeah.
were in their house, there was no way of knowing what was going on in their house.
Yes.
And now I feel like I read this, there was an article, and I'll close with
Mm,
this, and we can kind of chit chat a little bit about it.
mm,
But there was an article by an author named Beth Berry, and she has this blog called Revolution from Home.
mm,
And she said, we're overwhelmingly over resourced when it comes to information, but we're
mm.
entirely under resourced when it comes to the kind of support that would allow us to do something with that information. For example, we have parenting books and podcasts and courses, and they're more accessible. We have childcare, community care, seasoned moms and elders and people that advise us. We end up feeling guilty because we know better, but we aren't supported enough to do better.
That's so interesting. Yeah, again,
Yeah.
it's very, very thought provoking and very it does strike a lot of chords with me as I'm listening to that. The other thing I wanted to touch upon is this: have you seen this trad wives, like traditional wives, like revival?
Yes, I have.
And so I was like, come on. I mean, as if we haven't got enough pressure on ourselves. And now we're also expected to make sourdough, and all of that, and grilled cheese, but the way that it takes about 3 days in order to perfect the ingredients. So,
It is a lot. And I
it
feel
is a
like
lot.
how the other piece, the way that I have been navigating that, because I have definitely seen that. And as
Yeah,
a wife who lives on a farm,
yeah,
there's this pressure to like be a farm wife, like wear
yeah.
an apron and like bring the neighbors like biscuits. I don't fucking know. But like there's like this pressure to like to be like this like homestead wife, right?
Oh my God,
That's
yeah.
not who I am
No,
at all.
no,
Like
I
it's
know.
not who I am. It's not who he married.
Yeah,
And he knew that.
yeah.
Um so but the thing is like that homestead wife doesn't run a podcast.
Oh,
That
no.
homestead wife doesn't, mentor and help advocate for her special needs daughter. Like I have to, the way that I try to navigate mom guilt is go, these are the things I'm really good at. These are my special skills,
Yeah,
okay? And
yeah,
these other things are not, but I get them done to the best of my ability, and that's all I can freaking do. Because I'm
yeah.
not her and I'm not them. I'm me, and I just got to stay in my freaking lane.
Yes, I love that. I've heard that so many times on social media. Other mom influencers, I don't really like that term, but I guess they use that as well. But it is true, just like, girls, stay in your lane. We have a really bad problem as women of comparing ourselves to other women, and I am the worst I am guilty as charged when it comes to that. And I know I need to stop doing it.
We don't see each other the way we don't see ourselves the way we see each other either. For
Yes,
instance,
that's
Claire,
so true.
as your friend, I look at your life and I see you taking walks and being able to be on the beach, and you seem so carefree. And then I see clips of your home and it looks so beautiful and clean and like spacious. And then I see your girls and they're advocating for themselves and they stand strong and they know who they are and they're these like wonderful children that you've raised. And I go, wow, good job, Claire.
Oh,
But I'm
wow.
sure
So
you don't see those
interesting.
things.
Oh God. I mean, honestly, I would view me and my life in the exact opposite lens as to, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that, my life's always chaotic. My house is always a mess. Yeah, I do I'm very fortunate. I do live near the beach, and so but I go there because most of the time I'm walking off stress. I mean, the whole thing. And yeah, the girls are great, but obviously it's not without, raising teenage girls is not without drama and challenges. And so I actually quite often think my life is like hanging on by a thread and crumbling. And why can't I be as, structured and as organized as, whoever down the street? So that was fascinating to hear your insight and the takeaway that you get from maybe what I post on social media, which I try not
Yeah.
to. I'm not one. I don't like. And when I post stuff on social media, it's not with the intention of making other people think that their life's worse or not or lacking in some way. So I I actually don't post as often as I probably should. Really, I do feel very, I don't know, just a little reserved when it comes to posting stuff about my life. So I'm not the most vocal on social media. That said, I do not want for any second to make anyone else, especially another mom, feel like their life doesn't measure up to mine, because behind the scenes, I'm telling you right now, it's chaos and carnage most of the time.
Well, it looks great. And I
Hey,
think that if we
you
could do
believe
that
that
for
then?
ourselves, yeah, I mean, everybody's got their shit, right? Everybody
Oh
has their
yeah,
stuff, but like, I think we focus so much on what we don't do or what we can possibly maybe do in the perfect day or the
yeah,
perfect season of our lives that we miss what's actually really good. And I've been working really hard on taking in motherhood compliments and just saying thank you. I do the same
yeah.
thing. I'm like, oh my God, like, are you kidding me? Like, let me, like, I do the same thing. Like, oh, this old dress, like, oh, I bought it at Ross. Like, it's not a big thing. I'm so dismissive when people share their views with me. And I've been working on being like, thank you. No, full stop. Like, no explanation, no like chitter chatter about how it's not good. And we all have our things. Like, it's an unspoken thing. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
it
you
is.
do so well advocating for your daughter. I'm like, thank you. I'm not going to say you also don't see the times that this happens or that happens.
Yes.
Thank you. And I think we just need to give ourselves a little bit of kudos, because even if we feel like we're failing all the time, we're doing something clearly that is right, because there's these outcomes that are happening that people are seeing from us.
Yeah,
And that's a job well done. If your boss walked by your desk and they were like, "Wow, Claire, really good job on that article you wrote."
yeah.
You wouldn't be like, "Oh, well, I don't know about that. It was really shitty and like my drafts before that were bad and also the interview was really fragmented and I don't know." And you would just be like, "Thank you." And we don't do
Yeah,
that with
you're
motherhood.
right. You're right. Yes. So we need to apply that same principle to being a mum, don't we?
We do. We do. And you guys do too. I think that that's the cure to mom guilt, is to start looking at what we're doing well, because no one's going to be 100% every day. We're
No.
all hanging on by our, like, the seat of our pants. Nobody has it figured
Well,
out. We're all just trying to flail the right way. Um, but everybody does something good each day if you're
yeah,
trying.
yeah,
So maybe write those down. Maybe have like a win of the day, or write a to-do list of, but the backwards of a to-do list, like things you've already done, or find a way to like ground yourself with things that are going well, because something is going well, whether it was a good career day, good, I don't know, it's a good marriage day, maybe you had some sexy time, maybe it was a good parenting day. Something
Oh.
went well today, gold star.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of the Momversation Club.
And if you've enjoyed today's show, which we hope you have, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach even more moms and build a stronger village.
Until next time, bye.